What is good, 7th graders? We have some practice links to work on here. This first one says Ray is buying some ginger roots to brew some fresh ginger ale. The price of the ginger roots is G, so that would be our original price is G. And Ray has a coupon for 10% off. Okay, so we're talking about a discount here of 10%. There are different ways of thinking about how to calculate Ray's final bill. Okay, so let's just write some things down. Our original price is G, and we have a discount of 10%. Okay, it says find the dollar amount of the discount, then subtract it from the original price. Okay, and we have to do it in the order exactly as written there. So first, we need to find the dollar amount of the discount. So if you remember from notes, what we need to do is change our percent to a decimal, which would be 0.10, and then we multiply that by the original price, which is G. That's the amount of the discount. It says then subtract it from the original price. So I need to subtract that from the original price, so that would be G minus 0.1G. Okay, so I look for any that match that, which would be the last one over there. Second one here says find the percent of the original price Ray has to pay, then convert the percent to a decimal and multiply it to get the final price. Okay, so we start out with 100%. He has a 10% discount, leaving us with 90%. Okay, that's the percent of the original price he has to pay. Now we're going to convert that to a decimal. So we move our decimal twice. That turns out to be 0.90. And then multiply to get the final price. So we're going to take that times our original price G to figure out how much money that is. So we need 0.90 G, which is the same as 0.9 G. They just didn't put the other decimal place, which is okay. Then this first one is neither of these two. 0.1 G would actually be the amount of the discount, and G minus 0.1 G would be the sale price as well. So neither of those we're asking for. Oh, actually we're looking at this one right here. G minus 0.1 is nothing. Because in order for this to mean anything, I have to have a G with the 0.1, like this one down here. But since it's just the decimal 0.1, that doesn't do anything. So that's it for that one. All right, Nadine is at an arcade. She started out with 18 tokens. Each game costs 3 tokens to play. Suppose X is the number of games that Nadine has already played. Okay, we need to figure out which one of these match this. So we want the number of tokens Nadine has already used. The number of games she played times 3 will be the number of tokens she's already used. So it's going to be the bottom one. If she played 4 games, you multiply that by 3, because it's 3 tokens per game, which makes a total of 12. That's how many tokens she's used. The number of tokens Nadine has left. So if we look at this one, 18 minus 3x, x is the number of games she's already played. So let's say she played 4 games. You multiply that by 3 to figure out how many tokens that is. Subtract that from 18 would tell you how many tokens she has left. 6 minus x times 3. Now if we distribute, that gives us 18 minus 3x. That gives us the same thing as the first one, which was the number of tokens she has left. Because even though they're written differently, they're actually exactly the same. Because if you take the total number of tokens minus the number you've used, that's going to be how many you have left. Okay? The number of games Nadine can play with the remaining tokens. So since she has 18 tokens, and each token, or each game is 3 tokens, 18 divided by 3 is 6. So that means she can play at most 6 games. All right. So if you take those 6 games minus the number of games she's already played, that's going to tell you how many games she can still play. So it'd be that one, leaving this one to be nothing. 18 minus x doesn't tell us anything. All right, Donovan eats 2 granola bars and a glass of orange juice for breakfast every day. The price of a granola bar is B, and the price of a glass of orange juice is J. There are different ways of thinking about how to calculate the cost of Donovan's breakfast for 7 days. Okay, so find the cost of breakfast for 1 day, then multiply that by 7. So a granola bar is B. So to find the cost for the granola bars for 1 breakfast, we would do 2B. And then it's 1 glass of orange juice, so we would add the cost for a glass of orange juice. So that's going to be our total cost. Then multiply that by 7. We have to put parentheses around that and multiply the whole thing times 7. They want us to do it in that exact order. So the first one does not work because it's 2J and we need 2B. Second one doesn't have parentheses. We have to have our parentheses because we have to do it in the order they gave it to us. First the total cost, then multiply by 7. The third one matches what we have. They have these in different order, but that's okay. Addition is commutative, which means you can do it in any order as long as the signs are the same. So that one would work. And this one doesn't have parentheses either. Okay? The second one, find the number of glasses of juice and granola bars in 7 breakfasts. Then add them up together. Okay? So it's going to take what we had here. We need to distribute it and then add at the end. Because 7 breakfasts, so if we think of distributing this, 7 breakfasts is 14 granola bars and 7 glasses of juice. Okay? So the first one's not going to work because it has parentheses. We don't want parentheses this time. We want to find how many granola bars and glasses of juice we have total and then add them together. The second one looks like it will work. Again, they're in different order, but that's okay as long as the numbers and the signs are correct. The last one has the 14 with the J. We need the 14 with the B. It's 14 granola bars, 7 glasses of juice. So the last one doesn't work, which means the first and the last are neither of those. Okay, second one, we have our 2-step equations here. We need to follow order of operations first. So we're going to distribute because we have parentheses. So that's 4W. 4 times 1 is 4 equals 24. Then we do the opposite of what we see. We see plus 4, so we have to subtract 4. Subtract 4. 4W equals 20. When we have a number and a letter right next to each other, that's multiplication, so the opposite of that is division. We divide by 4. W equals 5. So we'll plug that in. W equals 5. Good, and that was correct. Go on to the next one. All right, again, no parentheses, so we do the opposite of what we see. Now, some of you might think, well, can we divide by 11 first? Because we have 11b plus 7 equals 40. Can we divide by 11 and then subtract 7? What we want to do is whatever term has the letter, we want to get that alone on the left first. So first we want to get rid of the 7, then we'll divide by the 11. So we're trying to get that all by itself. So we want to do the opposite of what we see. We have plus 7, so we're going to subtract 7. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. Gives us 33 on the right, 11b on the left. This is multiplication. Opposite of that is division. So we divide. That cancels and equals 1. 33 divided by 11 is 3. So b equals 3. Another one with parentheses. So we're going to have to follow our order of operations and take care of the parentheses by distributing. So 6 on the left, 2 times y is 2y, 2 times 2 is 4. Now we're going to do the opposite of what we see. We want to get 2y all by itself on the right. So we're going to do the opposite of adding 4. We're going to subtract 4. What we do on one side, we have to do on the other side. 6 minus 4 is 2. We're left with 2y on the right. This is multiplication, so the opposite of that is division. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. Here it just turns into 1y. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So y equals 1. On this link, we're doing the exact same steps, but now we have decimals instead of whole numbers. So a little bit more difficult, but not too bad. Well, again, what we can do here, instead of distributing, something that we can do is the opposite of what we see. So a number right in front of the parentheses means that we need to multiply. So we can do the opposite of multiplying and divide before we distribute. This becomes a little more helpful when we have decimals, because it's going to make it a little bit easier for us. So the opposite of what we see, I'm going to divide by negative 0.5, because that's what's being multiplied in front of the parentheses. On the right, that's just going to cancel, because anything divided by itself is 1, so that's going to turn into 1. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So on the right, I'm left with x minus 7.1. On the left, I have to divide. And 4.5 divided by 0.5 is 9. 0.5 goes into 4.5 9 times. And 2 negatives make a positive, so it's a positive 9. Then I have a minus 7.1. I need to do the opposite of what I see. I need to add 7.1. That's going to cancel, equals 0. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So x equals 16.1. Plug that in. Okay. So you can distribute the negative 0.5, but it's going to make a little bit more work for us when we have decimals like this. So I would suggest doing what I did here, and instead of distributing the 0.5, divide on both sides, and we're going to get nicer numbers to work with. Okay, we have negative 3b plus 2.5 equals 4. We want to get negative 3b by itself, so we're going to do the opposite of what we see right here. We're going to subtract 2.5. That's going to cancel. Subtract 2.5. 4 minus 2.5 is 1.5. We still have negative 3b on the left. Opposite of what we see, this is multiplication, so we're going to divide by negative 3. Notice I kept the negative with it. I'm not just going to divide by 3. I'm going to divide by negative 3. And then same thing on the right. This is going to cancel, giving me just b. 2 negatives make a positive, so it's positive b. 1.5 divided by 3. You could do the long division or use the calculator. it's going to equal 1/2. And a positive divided by a negative makes a negative. So it's going to be a negative 1/2. All right. So again, we have parentheses. We have the choice of distributing or dividing right away. Okay, this one would be fairly simple to distribute, but I think I'll divide again, just so that you guys can see that process one more time. So this 15 in front is being multiplied by the parentheses. So the opposite of what we see, opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we would divide the whole thing by 15. 15 divided by 15 is 1, so that cancels. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. Okay, 12 divided by 15 is 3/5. Nope, actually it's 4/5. Change that. 4/5, and then I have z minus 1/5. Okay, opposite of what I see, I'm going to add 1/5 instead of subtract. Negative 1/5 plus 1/5 is 0. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. I'm left with z on the right. 1/5 plus 4/5 turns out to be 5/5. 1 plus 4 is 5. When we add fractions, we don't add the denominators together. So it's 5/5, which actually simplifies to 1. So that would be 1 for us. Okay, here we have to find the mistake. Find the missing step. So Vlad tried to solve an equation step by step. So we have to make sure these steps are correct. So he gets 28. What we should do is subtract 14 on both sides, opposite of what you see. 42 minus 14 does turn out to be 28, so that is correct. Then we should divide by -8 to get p by itself. That would give us p on the left. 28 divided by 8 would be -3.5. So that turns out to be correct too. So there's no mistakes. All right, on this one, we can either distribute or we can divide. I think it looks like they divided, because notice that the 7j plus 2, it's still 7j plus 2 in step 1, but the 4 is gone, so they must have divided the -4. But 10 divided by -4 is not 40. 10 times -4 is 40. But we shouldn't be multiplying, we should be dividing. So step 1 is the mistake. Okay, again, it looks like they divided the 2, because you can see the 5g minus 1 is still 5g minus 1. If they distributed, it would be 10g minus 2. So if we divide by 2, that's going to cancel and just be 5g minus 1. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. That's correct. So what we should do now, opposite of what we see, we should add 1. 1.5 on both sides. 1.5 plus 1 is 2.5. That's good. And then we need to do the opposite of what we see, divide by 5 on both sides. That gives us g. 2.5 divided by 5 is 0.5. So step 3, not step 3. There's no mistake. Okay, they did everything correctly. They got the right answer. That's all, folks.